SpaceX's $17 billion deal crushes the big three wireless carriers. Why? I'm glad you asked. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me. Today we don't have any tea. I want to jump right into this because there's a lot to unpack here. Now, I did a video about DTC yesterday, but this news just came out and I want to add to it because this is so important. I was right, guys. I was right. I've been talking about this for the last 2 years, and today we're going to get into some math. We're going to review what was said and what some of the other articles talked about, but we're going to dig in deeper. This is going to be a deep dive into why SpaceX and Starlink could become the fourth national wireless carrier. That's over the T-Mobile and the Verizon and AT&T. Now, I've talked to you about this in the past. I said, listen, they are a thorn in the side of these carriers, and they know it. These telcos have the writing written all over the wall, and they're going to have to scramble to figure out how they're going to not lose customers. This is big, guys. This is really big. Your phone bill and mine might be going down in the not so distant future. And once again, I'm going to tell you why. And we're going to do some math, as I always do on this channel, because once again, this channel is not just about the how or the what, it's about the why and why things are the way they are. And that's what we're going to get into today. So I'm going to go through a couple of articles I put together here so that you know exactly what's going on. And then after that, I'm going to give you my commentary. Now, my commentary, once again, is going to be filled with a lot of details. We're going to deep dive into this so you understand what's going on. Not the superficial as a lot of these articles talk about, just simply reading their press release over there at SpaceX. So once again, we're going to deep dive this thing. So the article starts out by saying a $17 billion bet on the future. SpaceX has agreed to buy EchoStar's portfolio of AWS-4 and H-Block spectrum license for about $17 billion, a move that positions SpaceX Starlink to build a purpose-built direct-to-cell or DTC network capable of delivering connectivity directly to phones and other devices in places traditional carriers struggle to reach. So important, guys. Keep this in mind. They are going to not only give this service or provide the service to rural areas or places where cell towers aren't, but by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how they can do it for everyone, not just for rural areas, okay? It gets deeper than that. This purchase gives SpaceX spectrum contiguous with frequencies it has long targeted, reducing regulatory friction and accelerating technical plans for satellite-to-handset coverage, once again, DTC. Deal mechanics revealed. The agreement pays EchoStar up to $8.5 billion in cash and up to $8.5 billion in SpaceX stock. I'll take that all day long. That is a good deal. And SpaceX will also provide roughly $2 billion to cover EchoStar's interest obligations through November 2027. EchoStar framed the transaction as a sales plus a commercial partnership, and the stock component will make EchoStar an important SpaceX shareholder while freeing up cash to pay down debt and refocus business lines. A spectrum for everyone. The companies announced a commercial agreement that will let EchoStar Boost Mobile customers access SpaceX Starlink's direct-to-cell or DTC service, offering a quick path for satellite-assisted mobile service to reach mainstream subscribers via existing carrier retail channels. Very important. For customers in rural and maritime and emergency scenarios, this could mean direct phone connectivity without traditional tower infrastructure. EchoStar's regulatory relief. The sale comes after sustained regulatory scrutiny over EchoStar's use of AWS-4 licenses. SpaceX has previously lodged complaints with the FCC about underuse. Together with a separate, larger sale of spectrum to AT&T, the EchoStar transactions are expected to resolve an ongoing FCC inquiry into build-out obligation and spectrum utilization, clearing the way for deployment. The FCC has been looking at EchoStar for quite some time because they've been basically warehousing or holding spectrum and not using it. This is going to, once again, fix that. market reaction, and strategic shift. Investors reacted positively. EchoStar stock jumped after the announcement, while analysts framed the deal as a strategic pivot. EchoStar monetizes assets and reduces leverage. SpaceX acquires spectrum critical for larger scale direct-to-cell service. That rearrangement tightens competition between satellite operators and terrestrial carriers and may spur fresh commercial partnerships or regulatory scrutiny as deployment begins. That's where I'm going to get a little deeper into this. What to watch next? Key items to monitor are the FCC approval timelines, the commercial terms carriers sign with SpaceX, and the technical roadmap SpaceX will publish for integrating these frequencies into new SpaceX Starlink satellites or launch manifests. Regulatory approvals will not be automatic. Handset makers need certification and carriers must negotiate handoff and roaming rules. Realistic nationwide commercial service could take many quarters to scale, but the transaction fast-tracks the essential assets SpaceX needs to try. Watch launch manifests, FCC filings, and commercial announcements. So that's their take on what's going on. As I promised, I'm going to give you my commentary on this, and we're going to do some math and kind of break this down a little bit and tell you exactly what is going on here. I put together some notes that I think are very important, and hopefully will kind of dial you into understanding why I believe for the last couple of years that SpaceX Starlink will be the thorn in the side of the big three: T-Mobile, AT&T, as well as Verizon. A lot of you said, hey, listen, they got a deal together with T-Mobile. Why would it hurt T-Mobile? Because this is just a very small time that this deal is going to be running. SpaceX Starlink is using T-Mobile to kind of get their feet wet. They're kind of borrowing their spectrum, all right? Giving them money to borrow the spectrum so that their customers can have the service first and yada, yada, yada. The bottom line here is SpaceX, I said it way back a couple of years ago, is going to get their own spectrum. And when they have their own spectrum, they don't need anyone else's. They don't need T-Mobile. They don't need anyone. They then become their own provider. And my speculation here is SpaceX Starlink will become the fourth nationwide wireless carrier. Now, once again, why do I say that? What makes this a possibility? Now, to kind of go backwards just a little bit, to get an idea or a grasp of what's been going on and what they're talking about in this, AT&T ended up killing Uverse and DSL, that junk that I was using for so many years, and moved their video to their DirecTV. So what AT&T did was they bought spectrum, once again, from EchoStar or Dish Network, a lot of spectrum. And that was during the times when they were going to use this spectrum for 5G. AT&T leaned on DirecTV as kind of like a stopgap until they were able to spin off what they were looking to do. And one of the things that they were looking to do was move into a fixed wireless type of setup so that they were able to provide high-speed internet without fiber on the ground. They were getting rid of their copper, they're getting rid of DSL, and they're getting rid of Uverse. So they were purchasing a ton of spectrum, $23 billion of spectrum from EchoStar at the time, so they can roll it into their 5G network, especially for their new service they were coming out with, which was AT&T Internet Air. Now that Internet Air was the same thing as Verizon's Internet Home or Home Internet, as well as T-Mobile's Home Internet. It's the same thing. It's a fixed wireless connection. So you have a router in your home that connects to your closest tower and provides you 5G speeds unlimited. That's what they were doing, and AT&T was going to use this $23 billion purchase for some of that. They were going to use some of that spectrum for that. Now, that was great for EchoStar because the FCC was looking at them and saying, listen, you have all of this spectrum warehoused. We want it back. If you're not going to use it, we're going to fine you. And they're like, God, we can't use it right now. We can't build out this system. They were going to build out a 5G network, and it just wasn't feasible for them. So they said, you know what? We're going to sell those assets. And that's what they did. Now they're selling another $17 billion of spectrum to Elon Musk, SpaceX Starlink. So this is really, really big in this whole spectrum race, because spectrum is everything. Spectrum is like cash. Spectrum is gold these days. And if you have spectrum, you can sell it for a pretty penny. And as you can see, EchoStar is doing so because they basically went out of business, right? EchoStar and DirecTV and Dish, they went belly up. I said this, I predicted it, just like I'm predicting this happening, and it's come true. I don't know. I've been right a lot lately. I don't know what's going on. I predicted that Dish Network and DirecTV would go out of business because of Elon Musk, SpaceX Starlink. What happened? That's exactly what happened. Within a year or two, boom, they lost about 50% of their customer base. It's just a hot mess. The same thing holds true with HughesNet and Viasat. I said those two are going to go out of business too. They'll probably go and sell their satellites to the government, and that's about it. What are they going to do with them? No one's going to use them in GEO at 36,000 kilometers compared to LEO, where SpaceX Starlinks are at 500 kilometers, let's say. They're just not going to do it. So back to the whole DTC here. This is really, really big because what EchoStar ended up selling, Elon Musk, SpaceX, is 50 megahertz. 50 megahertz of bandwidth or of spectrum, okay? 50 megahertz. Now, is that a lot? Yeah, it kind of is a lot. So I know the question that you would have is, hey, Joe, I know that they have 650 DTC satellites currently on orbit. How many additional satellites would equate to that extra 75%? They have 25%, right? How many satellites would they need to make up the difference? So instead of buying additional spectrum, can they just simply add satellites? And the answer is yes. So if we do the math on that, which is kind of interesting because each one of these SpaceX Starlink DTC satellites produces about 20 to 40 beams, all right? 20 to 40 beams. Now, how many do we need to equate to that number? Remember, we're 25% there. We're at 50 megahertz. We need to get to 200 megahertz. How many more satellites would it equate to? Well, with those 20 to 40 beams, we would need approximately 200 to 300 additional satellites. What does that mean? That means if SpaceX Starlink put on orbit an extra, let's call it 300 DTC satellites, they wouldn't have to buy any more spectrum. What they have is actually enough. Now, will they buy more spectrum? Yes, they will, right? I'm not going to get into the reason behind that, but do they need to? No. That is the important point here. They don't need any more spectrum because they have satellites on orbit that facilitate or produce 20 to 40 beams per satellite. So if they just add an extra 200 to 300, let's call it 300 satellites, they'll be able to get to that magic number of 200 megahertz. So that's the beginning. Now, it gets a little bit deeper than that. It gets a little bit more interesting. I thought about this a little bit deeper and I said, you know what? Over the many years, I said, listen, now that SpaceX Starlink has the ISL or intersatellite laser communication, basically the satellites communicate at the speed of light through lasers between each other, forming this massive mesh network. That means that data that pops up from Florida could be in Singapore in milliseconds. Think about that, okay? Rationalize that. And this is where some more math comes in. Because of these ISL connections, intersatellite laser connections, they really don't need as many satellites, guys. This is the stuff that people never talk about, right? Because they don't dig in deep, right? Everything's superficial. That's what I tried doing on this channel. Dig in a little bit. If my math's off, you let me know if it's off. So the way I look at this is with ISL connection, instead of having 300 to 400, let's start out by saying, well, the current, right, spectrum that they own is 50 megahertz, right? We want to add about 150 megahertz, okay, minimum, More is always better, but we need to add about 150 megahertz to make them one of the big four instead of just simply the big three, become one of those national carriers. Well, the satellites that are needed without that ISL connection would be, let's say 300, maybe even 400. Well, with the ISL connection, doing the math would be about 180 to 250 maximum. Let's just call it 200. So we'll cut that 300 to 400 additional satellites to maybe 200, 225. That's nothing, guys. Every time they launch one of those Falcon 9s with these DTC satellites on them, there's another 20, 22 or so up there. A couple of hundred? What is that, a few months down the road? Folks, by first or second quarter of next year, all right, SpaceX Starlink is going to have enough DTC satellites on orbit for SpaceX to become the fourth largest nationwide wireless provider, carrier, period. Do you think that these telcos, do you think that AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile are doing the same math that I'm doing? Hell yeah. These people are a lot smarter than me. The writing has been on the wall, and I predicted this 2 years ago, right? Go back on the videos. Anyone that's been with me for a while will attest to this. I've said this, and now it's happening. This is massive. The reason it is so massive because not just because they could become a fourth national wireless carrier, but that will affect our bill. When T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon are always been in cahoots, they go up $10, they go down $5, up $10, they're always going up, right? They're in cahoots. No one is really cheap. You do the math, it's basically a crapshoot. Whoever has more antennas near you, those are the ones you use. That's it, right? They've been screwing us forever. Just like I said about HughesNet and Viasat, been screwing us forever. Now they're out of business because of Elon Musk. Same thing I said about Dish Network and DirecTV. They've been screwing us in the rural communities forever, and now they're screwed. Same thing holds true with the big three carriers. They are going to go down, or at least I believe that there's going to be anywhere from a 20 to 30% customer loss with these big three in the not so distant future, going to SpaceX Starlink. They don't talk about this. Elon Musk has been saying this forever. Oh, we're just going to use this as an extra service, an additional service, a service for emergencies. Just stop. Just stop. Anyone that can play chess a couple of moves ahead knows that that's a bunch of BS. That's just to placate, to appease the people that are in the know, like the T-Mobile guys over there that think that they have some great position. They have nothing. They're being used. and I love it. I love it, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. I love it. So I have to at least kind of clarify the whole ISL thing a little bit and the reason why it is so powerful, because some people don't understand that. Having these interconnecting lasers between satellite to satellite to satellite, why is that so important? Well, cell providers have all of these, let's say, backhauling stations, right? Each cell, it takes fiber off to the backbones or whatnot. Well, when you have this interconnected mesh network, right, of satellites, what that means is you don't need as many ground stations because the data can bounce from satellite to satellite to satellite to satellite and then get beamed down at a specific location, and you're only delayed by milliseconds. Once again, this data is going at the speed of light in a vacuum, even faster than light going through fiber terrestrially on the ground. You don't need as many ground stations. That's it. Very, very simple, guys. And as the network of SpaceX Starlink satellites, not the DTC now, but those satellites grows from 8,300 to 16,000 plus, can you imagine the power of this system? Because those DTC or direct-to-cell satellites will be using this mesh network also. You following this? Do you understand the scope? I hope you do. I hope you do. I can go into this a lot deeper than this and actually show you some of the math, but hopefully you got something out of this that's more than the superficial articles that you've been reading? If you enjoyed this, even in the least, please throw the video a thumbs up. Share it with your community, your friends, family, colleagues. Share the channel, share the video. That would be very helpful. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. And if you are, thank you. I appreciate that. Click this little notification button here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And if you want to give back to the channel, there's a little thanks button right here. Click on that, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, it's perfectly fine. The video is still free. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com/shop, or just simply JCristina.com. Take a look at my merch. If there's something there that you like, please pick it up. Help support me and my family. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, hopefully through SpaceX Starlink and DTC. And we'll see you in the next one. Love you guys.